All right, welcome to Guac is Extra. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Stacey Sanchez. I'm with today's featured artist,
Mathew Maciel.
And Archie.
All right, welcome to the show, guys. So tell us about the latest video, Mathew, really quick, that just came out. You've been pushing it a lot on Facebook. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
Yeah, so outside of the original content that me and my band have and that EP that me and Archie did, me and my band got together, and during this pandemic, we ended up doing a quarantine cover, a social distancing cover of the Beatles' original song, Come Together. We thought it'd be a good idea since we performed it at all of our live shows. We got a pretty good response. And a lot of people tend to like that song because it's pretty famous. Then for the Justice League movie that came out a couple years ago, Gary Clark Jr. did his own cover of that song. So that we actually covered his version of the Beatles' original song. And so it's a social distancing cover. It's split screen. All of my band members and I ended up recording it all separately, put it together. I know how to edit and do all that. So ended up putting it on Facebook, social media, got a pretty good response. And so that was the latest video that we worked on. It took about, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get it done, but it's been fun.
As you coming out with the EP, you decided to feature Archie here. So Archie, tell us a little bit about how that collaboration came to be.
Oh man, I don't even know how it happened. He just hit me up one day. He said, "Hey bro, I got a hook for this song. What do you think?" I was like, "Oh, it sounds tight. Do you want to rap on it?" I was like, "Okay, cool. When?" And he gave me a date, and he told me, he's like, "You have 2 weeks to write the verse." I was like, "All right." I wrote it the day of, on the spot, and it really irritated him.
because that's not a joke.
No, but the thing is, and I told him, it's like, that's just the way that I work. I like to feel, the vibes of everybody in the studio, and that's what really kind of, motivates me to write. I can't write by myself. I can't be in my office or in my home writing. Like, I don't have that talent to just hear a beat and be like, "Oh, let me write this." No, I have to be sitting around people and just kind of chopping it up, and then the word comes up and I'm like, "Oh, I can rhyme that." So that was just my process of writing music.
And not to put you on the spot, Mathew, but why Archie? How did that come to be? I mean,
Yeah,
if
man,
you came out with, well, not to say that he's not fully capable, but I mean, it obviously is a choice that you had to make when it came down to whether or not you wanted to have a featured artist, and then who would be your featured artist. And it's understood that you're on more than one track, so that's obviously a compliment.
Yeah, so he's completely correct. He's completely correct on that. It originally wasn't supposed to be an EP. It was supposed to just be one song. That's what I thought. We both have a mutual friend who creates beats from scratch. So he ended up creating a really good beat, and he ended up showing it to me. He put it on social media, and I ended up, reaching out to him. I commented it, and I said, "I like that beat. How much is it for it?" And he ended up giving me a price. I bought it right away, and I reached out to Archie, and I told him, "Hey, this would be a good one." The reason I chose Archie was we met a few years back mutually through some other friends during a church plant. And so that I was doing at the time with some friends, reached out to Archie because I know he had some experience in pastoring, just to get some insight and advice. And so knowing him and hearing one of his songs back then, he had a mixtape a few years ago, and one of his songs was called Shout Out. And I really loved that song. I actually ended up hitting him up and doing the music video for that song.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And after hearing that, I was like, wow, this guy is not only really good, but he's very unique in his sound. And I think a lot of rappers tend to sound very similar. And so I really liked his deep voice and that raspy, deep voice that he had. It sounded really different than everybody else. So I knew it would stand out. And he knows a lot of people. I know a lot of people. So I thought if we do a song together and we collaborate, I think it would get a pretty good response. And so it was originally supposed to get just that one song. I liked the way it turned out, and it ended up being Freedom, the second song of the EP. And then afterward, I ended up getting another beat, and I reached out to him, "Hey man, would we do another one?" And then he was like, "We should just do a collaboration and, do a project together." And we ended up doing 4 songs total.
Wow.
I just thought more than 4 songs would be a little bit too much. So we just did 4 just to release it and give people just an insight of both of our tastes and styles of music and put it both together. Because I'm not really like, it was more of a rap EP because he's rapping in most of it, right? I'm doing the hook. But I'm more of a pop Christian artist. And so I knew that wasn't really my genre. So that's why I didn't release a full album. I just released an EP. But yeah, it's been good. And we got a pretty good response from a lot of people with that.
Yeah, I was supposed to sing in one of those songs, but he didn't let me.
But even then, I mean, that moving forward, I mean, do you see y'all working together in another collaborative way?
I don't know, man. What do you think?
Yeah, so I already have a vision for what I want to do in the future, song-wise, how many more EPs or whatever. And I have a bunch of songs in my head and written down in other areas on my phone and my notes. And so I actually want in maybe a year or so, want to get together and collaborate, not just with Archie, but with other artists who do music here in the Rio Grande Valley. Just because I think the Rio Grande Valley is a really tight-knit community, and everybody knows everybody, family-oriented. And I think, again, going back to that, because of that and our culture down here, I think doing something with a lot of people from here would get a great response, not just from them and their family and friends, but from the entire community. So I hadn't really reached out to Archie about that yet because I'm working on some music with my band right now, but I thought about that in the future, possibly reaching out to him since we had a good response the first time and doing it again.
Archie, let's hear from you. What are you currently working on right now, and what do we have to look forward to?
I'm currently working on my master's. I recently enrolled to get my master's in theology and ministry. So I'm working on that right now.
Yeah. I wish I had like a beat.
I'm on summer vacation because I'm an educator. So right now I'm really just focusing on that. I do want to work on a project this summer. I have a lot of free time, and given the fact that we can't really go out much, and I personally am not going out much. I'm staying here, so I'm just using my time wisely. And I have everything I need to record a mixtape, a EP, a album. I just really need to sit down and write. I have not written anything since the last song that we recorded, actually. Just because, being a teacher is very time consuming. So I really just didn't make the time to do other things besides work and, my responsibilities at church. So now that I'm, it's a little bit more lenient. I don't have a lot of stuff to do at church because, we're not really meeting in mass groups. So, it's something that I'm looking at right now. I'm really seeing my options, seeing what I can do. And I just want my next project that comes out to be good, to sound good, to be relevant. Of course, I'm not going to change my sound with the many different types of hip hop right now, the genres and styles. I want to stay true to what I believe and what I've always loved, and that's the lyricism and just storytelling of hip hop.
Let's talk about that, and not to go off away, from talking about what we have to look forward to, Mathew. But how do you distinguish yourself? Like, is it a matter of saying, hey, you know what, this is the category that I'm in? Or is it a matter of saying, these are the artists that have influenced me as an artist, and this is what I look to sound like?
For me, it's not, I'm not looking for a label.
Okay.
I want to be known as a lyricist, and I want to be known as a rapper. The beats that I love to listen to is more of the East Coast, boom bap, Wu-Tang.
Nice.
Jay-Z, just, Nas, all that stuff. But I also like the West Coast, Tupac, Dre, Nipsey. I love every type of hip hop. Trap music is not my favorite, but they are very catchy. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
But I don't think I would be able to rap on a beat like that, just because I've heard them rap, and I mean, it's still talent. I'm not gonna take away from their craft, but me personally is not something that I choose.
Correct.
I'd rather have someone make me stop a track and rewind it to see what punchline they put, or what metaphor they used, or the alliteration that they used, just so I can kind of study it, than having a good like catchy hook.
Right.
So I think that's my perspective when it comes to that.
What about you, Matthew?
Well, I wanted to jump off of what he was saying too,
Yeah.
and that's something that really attracted me to Archie going back to what we were talking about earlier, him being on the track with me, and specifically him was what I like about Archie is he's not necessarily a Christian rapper. He is a rapper who happens to be a Christian, you know? And
Right.
so that's something that I really like because he'll tell you how it is in the song. He's not afraid to talk about certain topics and just be true and relevant, not just to Christianity, but also to the world, what's happening, and to himself. And so that's why I really liked, you know, him specifically over other people. And I think that's what makes his music unique, outside of obviously his sound and his vocals that I was talking about earlier. But that's just something that I really liked. And I thought, you know, this is what makes him a good overall artist compared to other people.
And what about yourself, Matthew? Since you come back from a pop background, are there specific artists that you look at being influenced by, or do you choose to label yourself?
So me, I do. I consider, I guess, myself a Christian artist.
Okay.
Obviously, not every single song that I've had is necessarily saying Jesus every other word or anything like that.
Right.
Look at our pretty famous, catchy song, "Move," that we did together. I mean, that is a Christian song, but a lot of people didn't realize that. And so that's the thing. Like, I just like making music. I consider myself just a Christian artist. And but for me, I actually have been influenced by a lot of other people. It's not necessarily Christians, but I try to apply just music that's, you know, catchy or people are listening to and relevant now. So actually one of my favorite bands of all time, and I know a lot of people are going to probably give me flack for this, but it's Maroon 5. And so everybody tells me, and they compare my vocals to Adam Levine, and I hear that a lot. And I just think it's natural, just because I'm able to hit that octave range, that's why I liked it, and I've been attracted to Maroon 5 and that style of music. So Maroon 5, their Songs About Jane album that they first had, their first album, that is my favorite album of all time. And so that's what I try to use as an influence. So yeah.
Are there any other artists that you possibly grew up with that could have influenced you as an artist?
So when it comes to when I was younger, I didn't become a Christian till college. So I really didn't listen to anything like that until I was a little older. So when I was younger,
Metallica.
No, so when I was younger, and I guess this is why I consider myself a pop artist. Again, I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I listen to the bands.
Who?
Boy, I was just playing.
I did. I listened to boy bands when I was younger.
Boy
I
bands.
listened to your NSYNC and your Backstreet Boys.
98 Degrees.
You know, that's Nick Lachey, 98 Degrees. So
Yeah.
That's why you wanted to make a dance for the next song.
I just like pop music.
Hey,
I don't know-
choreography's coming back, just saying.
I don't know if it's because you hear pop music on the radio so much. That's
Right.
what always hits the radio. And so I guess just growing up and just listening to the radio, when I was a young kid, obviously, I mean, sometimes my parents weren't able to afford, you know, or we didn't have iPhones and all that stuff back then when I was a little younger. So just listening to whatever's on the radio, I would either listen to that or listen to country. I know it's kind of two ends of the spectrum, but my dad listened to a lot of country. And so I would do one of those two. And so it was pop music, or you got your George Straits and country music over here. And so that's what I listen to all the time, whatever was on the radio.
I listen to George too, man.
See, there you go. See, but Archie, you're more of a lyricist, right? So let's talk about that too, because you know, you have your artists that say, hey, you know what? When I first create a song, like the concept of songwriting, it's about the lyrics, right? And I could easily assume that would be the case for you, Archie, right? Because you're possibly putting something together, or is it the beat first? And the same question goes for you, Matthew.
I think first I have to like the beat. Okay. If I'm comfortable with the beat, what I usually do is I'll play the beat and just kind of freestyle, or just kind of hum like a rhyme. Okay. No words in particular, but just kind of like
mumbling.
Like something like that. And then I'll start kind of putting words together. But, you know, for me, and I know this might be a little bit weird, I fell in love with lyricism listening to Spanish music. So I really, really love Los Tigres del Norte. If you ever listen to their music, you can literally sit, close your eyes, and you can see the story just unfolding in front of you. One of my favorite songs of all time is Los Hijos de Hernandez, which talks about immigrants' children going to the front lines in the military. And, you know, just the song itself is a whole story. And I'm not gonna lie, when I listen to it, I get teary-eyed just because of the poetry in it, and just the picture that it paints for you. So when I started listening to that, and then started listening to hip hop, Tupac was a storyteller. Biggie was a lyricist. Some people might argue with me about that, and that's okay. I still believe that, you know, they're two of the greatest rappers to ever live, but they just were very, very different. Biggie had the wordplay, Biggie had the lingo, he had the swag. Tupac had the storytelling. Nobody's gonna tell me that Brenda Had a Baby is not one of the greatest songs ever written, just because of the picture that it painted. So for me, it's just what I grew up with, and it just kind of entailed when it kind of turned around when I became an artist, and it's what I wanted to do was paint a picture, but also be lyrical at the same time. And it all depends what we were doing. It all depends the vibe of the song too.
So if people were to listen to your music, it is you would expect, or they would expect, to listen to a story.
Yes, one of the first songs I ever wrote was about bullying, and I've been a teacher for 8 years, and I wrote a song called "Bullying" on that. It's actually on my mixtape, and that song I wrote it about one of my students. I never told my students about it. It was a group of kids that were getting bullied, and I wrote about them in that song, and I was able to perform that song at my school one time. So that was pretty cool.
That's great. And what about you, Mathew? As far as like how do you prefer to handle things? I know you were talking about finding a beat earlier, and then that's when you decided to go with the featured artist. Is it more about the writing that comes for you first, or is it more about the music?
So I'm probably gonna have to agree with Archie. For me, I come up with a melody first, and so I'm always humming. I come up with a melody, something pops in my head, even if it's just quick when I'm driving. And I try to, you know, record it on my voice memos or something, just so I don't forget it. And then I base lyrics and stuff off of that. And I'm going to also agree with Archie on, actually, most people don't know that, but Spanish was actually my first language. And so, yeah, yeah, you see? And I actually grew up listening to Intocable, La Mafia, Papi
Yeah.
Pulido. And so I listened to a lot of that with my grandparents, and my grandfather used to take care of me when I was a little kid, when my parents were off to work. And so my parents had odd schedules. My dad was a construction worker in Chicago. My mother was was a nurse, and so I would always spend a lot of time with my grandfather, and he influenced me a lot on that music. So when I got a little older, I was able to, you know, listen to that Maroon 5 and all that stuff. And then when I became a Christian in college, I started listening to, obviously, Christian music. But what really drew my attention was bands like, I don't know if you ever heard of them, a band called Need to Breathe. So Need to Breathe. Yeah. So what I like about them is they talk about, you know, real things happening, real problems, and they're not afraid to tell you how it is and shy away from those things. And so that really drew my attention. They don't necessarily, again, say, you know, Jesus every other word and beat over the head with the Bible, but people like Need to Breathe, Matt Carney, and just people like that, that's who influenced me with that alternative rock / pop feel when I got a little older, and I was able to, you know, put that into my music that I'm doing now. So I think artists like that, not just Maroon 5, but going back to, you know, Intocable and the catchiness, like one of my favorite songs is Eres Mi Dorga. So like one of those, how it's catchy. I know I talked to Archie one time at his house about this and how catchy that song is. And just able to apply that to the pop music that I do today, also with that feel of, you know, the upcoming song that me and my band are gonna do. We're gonna have a feel like that Need to Breathe style, kind of more alternative feel. So it just, I vary, but I always like to start with a melody, and then after that, something catchy that it's gonna draw the attention of the listener, and then base my lyrics off of that.
So as a tribute to Blackout Tuesday, you know, people are obviously becoming a lot more outspoken. Some people claim that it's because of the lack of leadership. Others claim it's because, you know, this is an opportunity for either to show that the world is either coming together or that we're a lot more diverse than we thought. And so it's I think that we could easily expect for some fresh music to be coming out from many artists. A lot of them have donated funds to help with what's happening around the world, especially with what happened to George Floyd. And a lot of them are sharing their sentiments online, especially by just displaying the concept of a black box on their social media pages. But I assume that people are willing to do more. With that said, is that something that you see yourselves getting involved with when it comes down to current events in general? For the sake of, some people don't necessarily like to get political, others do. They find music to be a source, not only for them to express themselves emotionally, but express themselves when it comes down to politics, or it comes down to maybe possibly utilizing their outlet in order to make some kind of difference when it comes down to global warming, issues that that matter, right? Racism in this case. How do you feel about that as musicians? How do you see the way that the world is happening, and do you see that becoming an opportunity to create fresh music?
I think personally for me, it's a very, very touchy subject.
It is.
A very sensitive subject. As a Hispanic, I'm trying to choose my words very wisely.
Yeah.
I have really kind of stepped away and not put my 2 cents out there unless I speak to someone personally. But I think that right now it's not the time for us to try to take the spotlight away from what's really going on. Have I had lyrics and thoughts come up? Yes. And I have written them down for my own personal, for myself. Would I put out music right now to stay relevant? No. Just because, like I said, it is not for us to be in the spotlight. Right now, a lot of artists, hip hop is mainly African American, and I believe that a lot of their music that's going to come out is going to be very heartfelt. So me as a fan cannot wait. I cannot wait for that, because their lyrics are going to be very heartfelt. They're going to be very emotional. So I can't wait to listen to it. For me personally, as an artist, I am not going to put out any music at this time, just because this time for me personally is a time of prayer. It's a time of really just seeking God, not just for myself, but for this country, for these leaders, for these families that are being affected, because it is a very heartbreaking time. And it's very saddening, because I have family members that are African American and biracial, and it's now they're minority from both sides, and they don't live here in the valley; they live outside of the valley. So it's scary to see these things happening, and knowing that my best friend lives just across the bridge in Dallas.
Correct. So
when that happened, I called him. They like, "Hey man, you good?" He's like, "Yeah man, everything's fine." I was like, "Cool," because he just has a newborn. Oh. So it's very scary time, and I just really think that this is a time for us as believers to pray and to really seek understanding of what's going on.
Okay.
So I can sort of attest to that too. So I actually have family in Chicago. So most of my family is up there, Chicago and Houston. And so it's a similar situation that Archie was talking about. It's right on the southeast side of the Chicagoland area. So all that part is getting looted really bad. And a lot of my family has reached out to me to ask, how is the Rio Grande Valley doing right now? And I'm like, well, nothing's really happening out here.
Right? It's almost surprising.
But my cousin, who also has a newborn baby, just about a week old now, and same thing, they're just worried right now because there's a lot of looting right down the road. And the last thing I would want to do in a situation like this is make it about myself. And so that's something that I've talked to a couple friends about as well. I don't plan on releasing another original song till August, but that was already planned and already scheduled to release way before any of this happened. Right. And so when this came out, that's the last thing I would want to do. And so I've talked to, a couple people about that, just because I'm not part of that community. And yeah, we're Hispanics, and I'm part of the Hispanic community that we've gone through a lot as well. But right now it's not about us. And right now that didn't happen to us. And so the last thing I would want to do during this time is just take away what really happened to the Floyd family and make it about me and my music and my band and all that. So as of right now, I don't plan on doing anything, and I'm gonna just jump in. It's just a time of prayer, a time of getting together, and just being grateful for what you have, and being appreciative, and just being nice and grateful for the people, and showing love for the people around you.
I do feel that, with respect to those that, that are going through this, and the concept of not pushing out any music, that's totally respectable. Well, what are the odds of somebody coming out to say, hey, you know what, I want to give back, maybe singing about it, or maybe some kind of collaborative effort?
I don't know if you remember, there's two songs in particular that I'm thinking about. We Are the World. They did it back in, I really don't know the year, do not quote me. But you had various artists on there. You had LL Cool J, you had Jamie Foxx. You had that one, and then you had the other song, the Marvin Gaye song, that had the beloved Backstreet Boys and Matthew Loves and NSYNC and Gwen Stefani and Nelly and Ja Rule. Like, those were collaborative efforts that were done for raising funds for these.
Right.
I personally think that would be awesome. That would be
great. Yeah, I feel like that would possibly be the only respectable thing that we could do in some way, where it's a unifying effort. It's us giving back to, obviously, raising funds so that any money that any of these artists made was going to go directly to giving back to the community. What is creativity to you?
Go, man.
All right. Creativity, I think, is just bringing your ideas to life. Whether that be, I know we're talking about music right now, but whether that be music, whether that be, an artist in painting, whether that be, an author in writing a novel or a book, I think it could be in anything. Just being yourself, bringing out your ideas and who you are inside, and bringing that to paper, bringing that to music, bringing that to life, and so other people around can hear it. I think you can be creative in so many ways. So that's just what creativity is to me.
How about you, Archie?
There's not really a right or wrong answer,
There isn't.
Me personally, I think that it's something that's going to catch the mind of the listener, because we know a lot of songs that we know not by listening to songs. Because I never listened to Lil Pump's Gucci song, but I know the hook just because I teach 5th grade. These kids, they just blur it out all the time. So I know the hook. I don't know. I've never heard his song, but I've also, in my mind, I have the lyrics from Big Pun's Twins that he does with Fat Joe, just because he has a crazy rhyme scheme in the middle of it. I also have Talib Kweli and Kanye and Common's song. And I remember just the crazy lyricism it has in it. And for me, that's always been a goal, is to have someone remember what I did lyrically. They might not remember the whole song, but if they remember 2, 3 bars, 4 bars, or just the punchline, it's like, yo, I did what I wanted to do. And that's always been my goal to do when I create something. Creativity of it. I take big pride in what I write. And I'm my biggest critic, and if I don't think it sounds good, I'm gonna trash it and start all over again.
The same way.
So how long did it take for the EP to come together?
I don't know.
Archie?
It took me forever. He had all his hooks done like
the same day?
Like yesterday. Like the beat wasn't even done yet. He already had a hook. And for me, it was just kind of like, he kept, he would tell me, hey, come record. I was like, well, I can't. And then when I would go record, he's like, are you ready? I was like, nah, man, I haven't even written my verse. I had like a little bit.
You actually wrote one of, what song was it? You wrote one of the verses right then and there in 5 minutes, and it came out awesome. I forgot what it was.
Honestly, I don't even know where they're at, man. I used to always write them in notebooks, but
I was gonna say, usually. Well, everybody has a different way.
iPads, iPhones just became a lot more, became easier to carry around. So I've been writing in my phone, but I really just like writing in notebooks even better.
So the EP came out March 31st of this year, right? And it was 4. So before the EP came out, so that's almost 3 months ago. Yeah, before the EP came out, we had released 2 singles of those 4, right, individually. One was released, Move was released in October, and then in April of 2019 was Freedom. So between April and March, so almost a whole year just to do 4 songs, but just going through the whole process. Because it wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna get together and record it. No, I had to get the beat and make sure the beat was correct on what I wanted and the vision that I had for the song. And then on top of that, create my hook. On top of that, record my hook. On top of that, make sure, Archie gets his verses in, record it. Then you gotta get them mixed. Then after a few weeks of that and making sure everything sounds good after the mix is done, I have to get them mastered. And so that's just and that's just one song. And so that, doing that 4 times, it just was a few different, it was just a long process of trying to get a few different songs out.
Right.
And, I liked it. I liked the process. I think the EP came out great, better than I expected, to be honest. But yeah, it's just each song takes a good amount of time, especially if you want to perfect it. Because I know I'm a perfectionist. Archie's a perfectionist. And so we're perfectionists trying to do something good together.
Yeah. A lot of artists tend to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make it big. This makes sense. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all the way. And they decide to make music or whatever their craft is, their primary. We all know that it's not a simple life to do that. So how do you guys place your music? Do you see it more as a hobby? Do you see it more as a second form of income? Or do you see it as possibly saying, hey, you know what? Here's an opportunity. I'm going to try it while I'm still making money. But if this takes off, I'm probably going to quit my day job to do this full time.
We get paid for this? For me, I use it as a tool to minister. We live in a time when kids are very influenced by the music that they listen to. So, I use it as a tool to reach those kids that might not want to listen to a preaching or might not want to step into a church and listen to a pastor preach. Fortunately, I've been able to preach after I rap at a youth rally or a church conference. And it's been a blessing to be able to, share my testimony through music and actually be able to share it through a message. So for me, I've never looked at it as this is going to be my job. I love teaching. I've been teaching for 8 years and I love it, though sometimes I might be a little stressed, but I do this just to be able to minister. And, if I get blessed, in the future, if someone wants to sign me and give me money to make music, you know what? I'm not going to say that I'm not going to take the opportunity, because I probably would. But I don't think I would leave my day job to pursue this career.
Interesting. What about you?
So I'm also in the education field. And I do a lot on the side of production. And so I end up doing, photos and video on the side as well. And so I think that goes hand in hand, because I'm able to produce the videos that I need for my music. But I have a passion for both, for music and for video. And so when I say the education field, I do video for the school district that I work for. And so that's my full-time job, on top of doing weddings and all that kind of stuff. So I have another source of income, or a couple sources of income coming in outside of music, right? And it's the same thing. But if somebody ever came a label and said, hey, would you love to do this full time and we'll pay you? I mean, I don't know if that ever came up, if I would say yes or no, just because I do have a big passion for production. Mm-hmm. And so I really like doing that too. But who knows, maybe if the opportunity was right, I might take it, right? But since I have a passion for both, at this time being, it's not something I do full time. It's just something to, help inspire people and help, I've had, just from a couple songs, people message me on Facebook, social media, or to my number if they have it, and tell me, hey, this song really spoke to me. This song really stuck out. I had one individual come to me, and he decided to come to a live show and take pictures for free. I didn't know he was coming. He ended up liking one of my songs so much, and it spoke to him, that he drove all the way from one end of the valley all the way to the other just to come take photos for me for free. He printed a couple of them for me as well and sent them to me. And he framed one for me, and he just wrote on the back, you're an inspiration. I really appreciate that. So it's just those stories like that. That's the reason why I do music. It's not to get paid, but if I get paid, it's an extra,
Correct.
So I think that's why I do it. I have a passion for music. I have a passion for people. So if I'm able to use my music to help somebody out and to inspire somebody, why not? So that's just my take on it.
I wanted to add a little something on that. I've gotten asked to go perform and preach at places, and they always ask me, how much do you charge? I was like, yo, just feed me. And Mexican churches down here, Hispanic churches, they always got food. So I was just like, yo, just feed me. I'm good.
Knowing the situation, that y'all are in, because it's, being able to handle, you're juggling, you're trying to find a balance, and it's not simple, right? It's not simple to keep that balance consistent. It's not simple to get enough hours of sleep. It's not simple to multitask because you're only human. So for others that are within the music business, if there's any form of insight that you would like to provide, what would you say to maybe an upcoming artist?
So I remember years ago, I ended up going to a concert. It was a few years back. I can't remember the exact year. I want to say it was like 2012, around that time. I went to a concert at a local church of a pretty big name artist and an upcoming band who's pretty famous now. And that upcoming band was opening up for the main artist. They weren't that famous at the time. That band, their name is Unspoken, and they're all over the Christian radio right now. Well, after they had a line going up to go see them and introduce yourselves and stuff. At that time, I really didn't know who they were. I just went up to them because, there was a line there, and I was like, oh, why not? So I went up, and I'm going to give the same advice that he gave me because I think it really helped me and it really inspired me to keep going. But I asked them, hey, man, at that time, I didn't really have any original music out. I didn't start writing music till later. So I asked them, I have a passion for music. I want to get my music out there, but it's all here. It's all in my head. What do you recommend I do to just, help get my music out there and help pursue music in the music industry? And he just told me, continue writing. No matter what you do, keep writing. Whether it's a good idea, and like how Archie said earlier, whether it's an idea that you maybe don't like and you just toss it after you're done because you don't think it's as good as you wanted, just keep writing. And I continue to do that, and time again, I threw song and song and song and song away. And it wasn't until 2016 that, like 4 or 5 years later after I met that band, when I released my first, got connected with the right people, recorded my first and released my first single. And so I just, that's what I would say to any artist that really wants to go out there and really pursue music. Any ideas that you have, jot them down, whether or not, you might be all in on those ideas, but you can check later. But as long as you write those ideas down, be creative in it, and just write whatever you're thinking. Don't stop, because you never know, not just you, but maybe you might come across somebody, such as somebody who can be in your band or a record label or whatever the case may be, that really likes those ideas and can help bring those ideas to life. So I just say, keep writing. Whatever you do, keep writing music.
Yeah. What about you, Archie?
For me, it will be true to yourself. Do not change. Do not try to be someone you're not. If you grew up in a good home, your struggle might have not been the streets. Your struggle might have not been the struggle that someone wants to hear, but your struggle is something that someone needs to hear. I always tell people, they ask me, are you a gangster? I was like, no, I used to want to sag my pants, but my mom would buy me a belt and make me put them up. So I didn't grow up in the streets. Yes, I'm tatted up. Yes, I listen to hip hop music, but I'm not from the streets. But my boys are lost soul, beautiful monsters. They're from the streets, and I've learned a lot from them. And they've always told me, I always ask them, it's like, man, why do y'all hang out with me? Why did y'all take me under your wings? He's like, bro, because you're real. He's like, you rapped about stuff that you were going through. You didn't try to make this persona of someone that you weren't. So my advice would be true to yourself, be true to who you are, and you went through what you went through for a reason, and whatever your testimony is, someone needs to hear it.
As far as your listeners are concerned, where can they hear your music? Where can they hear the EP?
The EP is called The Throne, and it's Mathew Maciel featuring Archie. It's a 4-song EP, so again, it's everywhere on all digital music platforms.
It's definitely been a pleasure. It was well worth it for your words of inspiration that you provided. Hopefully they will inspire others to continue going, to continue growing. Thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, Stacey Sanchez, and your featured artists today are
Mathew Maciel
And Archie,
and you're tuning into
Guac is extra.
Guac is Extra. Guac on, guys.
Yeah.
And we going hard when we get loud. And we gonna put on a show. And we give it all to Christ on the throne.
It's been a long road and shed many tears. Catch me swinging back at the stars, building up my fears. I know he ain't done, so I can't run. Tasted that living water and like it there ain't none. Bring the blazing arrows, I'll crawl in the straight and narrow. Trading me to the light and flip my heart like Pharaoh. Withstand with